สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับเรากลับมาพบกันเช่นเคยนะครับนี่คือ The Diplomat ทาง Spring News กับคุณมิกกี้ทันชนกจงยศยิ่งและผมวารินทร์สัจเดียวครับวันนี้เนี่ยจะพาคุณผู้ชมไปท่องเที่ยวประเทศที่หลายๆคนเนี่ยคงอยากจะไปรวมถึงคุณมิกกี้ด้วยนะครับ
ยังไม่เคยไปนะคะแต่ว่าพอได้ฟังท่านทูตพูดถึงเรื่องของประเทศนี้แล้วนะคะรู้สึกว่าโอ้โหต้องไปแน่นอนเพราะว่าเขาให้ความสำคัญกับการรักษาธรรมชาติมากๆเลย
สโลแกนของการท่องเที่ยวของเขาเนี่ยครับก็คือ 100% Pure New Zealand นะครับใช่แล้วครับเราจะพาคุณผู้ชมไปพบกับท่านทูตนิวซีแลนด์ประจำประเทศไทยนะครับพนักท่านรูเบนครับ
ค่ะต้องบอกใบ้นิดนึงนะคะว่าท่านทูตทั้งหนุ่มแล้วก็โสดด้วย
เป็นนักรักบี้ด้วยนะครับไลฟ์สไตล์ของท่านเป็นอย่างไรนะครับรวมถึงภารกิจที่สำคัญในการกระชับความสัมพันธ์ไทยนิวซีแลนด์เป็นอย่างไรนะครับเราไปทำความรู้จักกับท่านทูตกันก่อนเลยครับ
The Diplomat เทปนี้ขอแนะนำท่านทูตจากประเทศนิวซีแลนด์ท่านทูต Reuben แอนโทนี โจแอนเนส เลเวอร์มอร์ท่านเป็นท่านทูตรุ่นใหม่ไฟแรงอายุยังน้อยแต่ความสามารถรอบตัวจริงๆค่ะท่านจบเกียรตินิยมด้านกฎหมายและการเมืองและก่อนหน้านี้ท่านเคยประจำการอยู่ที่ประเทศฟิลิปปินส์อีกด้วยขอเชิญพบกับท่านทูตรูเบนกันเลยค่ะ
We say Kia ora, Ambassador?
Kia ora, very good. Kia ora.
That's Maori way of greeting.
All right.
So,
and maybe perhaps Mickey, you can do the nose thingy.
Well, that's true. The hongi we call it. No,
the what?
The hongi.
Hongi, yeah, I remember that.
Maori welcome.
Yeah.
We have two official languages in New Zealand, Maori and English.
Yeah.
So very proud of our Maori tradition, Indigenous people.
And everybody can speak Maori. Is it widely spoken?
Unfortunately, not yet.
Not
no,
yet.
It's we had probably 30 or 40 years ago in New Zealand there was a renaissance of the Maori culture and you had Maori language schools spring up. Young Maori children would have the option to go to a Maori school and to learn the language because at one stage the Maori language nearly died out. Today it's in very good health, but only a very small proportion of the New Zealand population speak Maori fluently, but many of the phrases are part of our common language and sometimes we don't even realise it. And when you see signs in New Zealand, if you've travelled there, sometimes there'll be an English translation and a Maori translation as well. So it's the culture and the language have been integrated into the way of life, I suppose.
Speaking on behalf of Thai audience, I'm sure many of them are familiar with 100% Pure New Zealand. That used to be the slogan that you promoted. That's tourism right. In your country, and I was actually one of the consumers because I visited your country.
Thank you very
much. Back in 2005, self-drive. That was wonderful.
Wow.
Is it still 100% Pure New Zealand? Are you still exporting nature?
Well, firstly, V, thank you very much for coming to New Zealand.
Yes, thank
because
you.
Because we,
you're welcome.
Like Thailand, you know, New Zealand is really reliant on tourism. It's a big industry for us. We have a lot less visitors, 2.5 million, but we're only a population of 4 million people. So it's one of our biggest industries. So economically it's important, but I think like Thai people, we love to welcome people to our country. We're very happy when they make the effort to come such a long way. And that campaign, 100% Pure, it's been a very successful one for us. It's been going for over 15 years. And some of the imagery and the branding has changed, but the slogan is the same.
Still the same.
And we feel it captures several things. It's partly the landscape, the beautiful environment that we're very proud of, but also 100% pure adventure as well. We think that if you come to New Zealand, you can have an adventure tourism, that you can get out, you can see the country, you can drive through it like you did. So the slogans worked very well for us, so we'll keep it if it's working well.
I've only been to the North Island. I still have to go to the South, and you have a lot to thanks to Peter Jackson as well, Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely, that's my home island, if you like, is the South Island, and less people live there. But very spectacular landscapes, and the ones that you saw, of course, in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So those big Alps. Many people don't know in New Zealand we have snow-covered Alps. We have the lakes. We have quite a variety, really, of landscape in a small country, and we're very proud of Peter Jackson, of course. And he's been able to showcase some of that landscape in the films, as well as employing a lot of people to make the films in New Zealand too.
Actually, I've never been to New Zealand, but I've always heard that the sheep population is much more than the human population over there. Is that true?
If people know one thing about New Zealand, then they probably know that, I've found. And it is true. You know, we've got, I think now, only about 30 million sheep.
Oh, really?
Which means there's about 7 sheep per person. But in the 1980s, we had twice the number of sheep. And I guess the serious point behind it is that New Zealand is a country that has done very well out of agriculture. In many countries, it's seen as a lesser developed sector, but we're quite rare because we're a developed country that's made our economy on the back of agriculture, and that's changed a lot over time. And in fact, what farmers have done is they will use their land for the most profitable business they can, and many of them decided that they can make more money from dairy farming, from cows, rather than sheep, or from grapes for our wine production. So although we're known for the sheep, I guess the point is that our environment has given us an opportunity to produce high quality food products, and so there's a variety of ways to do that, but we still have a lot of sheep, and if you travel through New Zealand you're going to see that.
And they're so friendly.
Well, that's right. You know, you grow up in New Zealand and you're very used to seeing sheep everywhere. You don't think much about it. Of course, it's maybe a novelty for tourists.
You belong to each other, right? The people and the sheep.
Well, that's right. But we're very lucky. We have no poisonous animals in New Zealand, only friendly ones.
So, apart from tourism, what's driving your economy then? Lots of people from Thailand, you know, go for education in New Zealand as well.
That's right. Education is important to us, and you know, we're lucky to have a really high quality education system, a lot of international institutions rated among the best in the world, but it's only really been in the last 25 years that we've realised there's an opportunity to bring people from around the world to New Zealand for education. And in this region, in Southeast Asia, Thailand has been the most important partner for us. We have around 4,000 Thai students that study in New Zealand each year. Very popular for high school. I think the parents perceive New Zealand as a safe destination for their children if they want to study in an English language environment. We'd love if more of them stay on for university as well. We've got 8 universities, not a lot of universities, but they're all very high quality and offer a range of fields of study. And I've been very pleased in my time here to welcome some of them to Thailand. And what I think we might find in the future is that more of them look to partner with Thai universities and institutions, because I think it's important that we can offer these joint courses in the future, and it would be great if some New Zealand students could come to Thailand as well, because I meet people who studied in New Zealand under our scholarship program in the 1960s, and those people have a deep understanding and affection for our country, but it's important that we can also encourage young New Zealanders to learn more about Asia. So I think it's a very promising outlook.
Being on the same continent, Australia, I mean, how different are you from Australians, you know, both being under the Commonwealth
That's right.
group?
We've got a very, that's the thing, I mean, we share a common history, and although New Zealanders might feel very proud and independent, and they might feel we're quite different from Australians. When we go out to the rest of the world, actually we're quite similar, and we have a lot more in common than separates us. We're a smaller country. We're about 5 or 6 times a smaller population and much smaller in landmass. But we complement each other very well. And, you know, recently we commemorated here in Thailand, for example, our annual World War I commemoration. It's called Anzac Day. This was the 100th anniversary. It's a joint Australia and New Zealand celebration each year, and it's of great importance to us. And that goes all the way back to the First World War when our soldiers fought together. And I think they realised that they had a lot in common. They were quite different from the others that they were fighting with. And this is something that holds to this day. We have this close bond, and we've done a lot together. We've negotiated a free trade agreement with the ASEAN region, Australia and New Zealand. Our two economies are basically a single economy. You can travel freely between the two countries if you're an Australian or New Zealander. Families live on both sides of the Tasman Sea. So it's a very close relationship, but we're still two separate countries with our own priorities and agendas. But we feel in the world we can be stronger by working together.
Let alone the strong bond with the UK with the recent visit by Prince Harry.
That's right. It's
everywhere on the news. Great publicity for your country.
That's
as well.
right. Well, you know, we have this colonial history. New Zealand was settled by the British, and we're quite unique in a sense. We had a treaty that was signed between the British settlers and the chiefs of the Maori tribes, because the Maori people had been in New Zealand for at least 900 years before the British arrived.
They're the indigenous.
That's right. So, you know, we've had this history of having to accommodate, and the treaty was an accommodation, and that was signed in 1840. I recently went to Waitangi, where the treaty was signed, and 175 years ago it was signed. It hasn't always been an easy history. There was conflict in the decades that followed. There were disputes over land deals. But I think as New Zealanders, we're quite proud that in recent decades we've confronted that past. We've made settlements with some of the Maori tribes. You find when you go to New Zealand and you start to talk to people that they're very happy to engage on this. They're quite proud of that Maori culture. And what we've tried to do as a country is blend both the British heritage, the Maori culture, and now in recent decades also immigrants from other parts of the world, the Pacific Islands, and now from Asia as well.
Right.
So it's quite today New Zealand's quite a multicultural society, but I think you'll find that New Zealanders are still quite proud of that connection, and the royal family is very popular. And Harry certainly made a very positive impression when he was in New Zealand. So those links are still important. My father is English. I'm a first generation New Zealander myself. I actually carry a British passport as well as a New Zealand passport, but I feel very much a New Zealander at heart.
You were born in New Zealand.
That's right.
And actually New Zealand will change the national flag too, right? There will be a referendum soon.
There will be a referendum. Yeah, this is quite a big occasion, you know, because our flag has, as you see, the Union Jack, the British ensign in the corner, and then the stars, the red stars is the Southern Cross. It's the constellation we see in our skies in the Southern Hemisphere. It's actually the same constellation of stars on the Australian flag, but slightly different configuration. They have more stars. Theirs are white, ours are red. The flags are very similar. Many people don't know the difference between them. And I guess as we've come through our history, a lot of New Zealanders feel a greater sense of independence. So really the referendum is a chance for people to decide, do they want to retain that flag and all the history it represents? You know, people have gone to war under that flag, or do they want to have something which represents a modern New Zealand with all of the culture that makes that New Zealand one? So it's going to be a question for the people to decide, and our government proposed a referendum, so one will take place later this year, and people will be asked first to choose between 3 different flags selected by a national panel, and then they'll be asked to, in a second stage, to decide between that flag and the New Zealand flag. So we will see.
This is your second posting as the ambassador. Your first posting as ambassador was in the Philippines,
Yes.
and then you moved to Bangkok. So how is it like, being here in Bangkok? Any special mission that you have to accomplish as the ambassador here in Thailand?
Well, I feel firstly very fortunate to be here, and I was grateful to have the chance to serve as ambassador in the Philippines at an early stage of my career, I suppose, and a very rewarding experience. And I have to say also exciting to be in a part of the world in Southeast Asia, in the ASEAN region, where you really feel things are moving. And that's in an economic sense and in many other senses as well. So to be able to come from the Philippines to Thailand, a very important player in the ASEAN region, is a very good opportunity for me. And Thailand, I realised when I got here 9 months ago, there's a lot of interest in New Zealand and Thailand. People like to holiday here. They love Thai food. Business people have flourished doing business with Thailand and in the other direction as well. The education links that we mentioned, the tourism. So there's a lot of bonds that unite us, and when that's the case, it means that an ambassador's job and the job of the embassy is a very busy one. Well, that's great, because that's what we're here to do. So on all of those areas, we're trying to promote our country, to promote the connections between New Zealand and Thailand. So it's a positive story, but there's always more that we can do together.
Is it common to have a young ambassador, or
Right.
you're the exceptional case?
You took the ambassadorship, the first one, 2.5 years ago. That was when you were very young, right?
Yeah, well, I guess that's true. I'm probably the youngest here in Bangkok, but I guess it's my second time around now. And as I say, I feel fortunate to have that privilege. It is a privilege to be the government's spokesperson here and representative. And we have high expectations. New Zealand has a lot of ambition with this region, and we know that we've got to work hard to make things happen. So I feel a lot of responsibility to do that. I'm very lucky here at the embassy to have a great team. We have our staff from New Zealand. We have our local Thai staff who do a great job. They've been here for longer than our New Zealand staff, and we rely on them a lot. So as a team, we work very well together. So I mean, I'm just the ambassador that comes in and runs that team and does my best while I'm here. But I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
If I bump into you on the street, you have a rugby player built, and I couldn't help but noticing the all black. Are you a rugby player too?
Well, yes. I did grow up playing football, or soccer as we call it in New Zealand. But
Soccer.
A lot of young New Zealand boys, you get to a certain age, and rugby is really the dominant sport. It's very deep in our culture. And, we've been the country that has the best record internationally at rugby. Now, I know not a lot of countries play rugby, but we're very proud to be the current world champions at it. And, when you look at the All Black rugby team, and they're named the All Blacks because they play in the black uniform, that's our national colour, with the silver fern, that team, it's a very diverse team. You see New Zealanders of all cultures in the team. You've got the European New Zealanders like me, Maori New Zealanders, you've got the Pacific Islanders or Polynesian New Zealanders. Nearly all of those players are born in New Zealand, but many different ethnicities. You've probably seen the war dance, the Maori haka, that they perform before the match. That's a way of unifying the team, and it's a challenge that they make to the opposition. So I think there's a lot of symbolism in that. A young New Zealand boy playing rugby can be an All Black. It doesn't matter whether they're from the best school or the poorest school. It doesn't matter. It's what they do on the field, and they have to be very disciplined and hardworking to achieve it. I could never make that level,
but you do play.
But I'm very keen supporter. I've played myself, but as an ambassador, maybe it's better to focus on my job than playing rugby.
Now, to be fair for the lady, I'm sure this question will impress Mickey because she's a wine lover, and you have a great wine, Marlborough, Sauvignon Blanc. Oh my God, New Zealand wine is one of the best in the world.
Well, V, thank you. You speak to my heart because I grew up in Marlborough. That's my home province.
I envy you now.
You know, it's interesting because we talked about the sheep, and when I was growing up in Marlborough's a province with only about 40,000 people. It's actually small in population, quite large land area. There were sheep in the rural areas in Marlborough. It's a very dry part of New Zealand, warm summers, cool winters. Since then, though, grapes have covered our province, and this Sauvignon Blanc, it's a very fruity, fresh white wine and goes very well with Thai food, I might add.
Perfect,
That's what has built a reputation for our province internationally, and it's been in the last 30, 40 years. So it's a very positive outlook for the province and economically important, but it gives us a name on the world stage. So it's part of our food and wine offering, I guess, the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. So you're welcome back anytime.
One more thing I know about New Zealand is that New Zealand people are very environmentally concerned,
Yes.
such as when you go fishing, you have a quota, right?
Yes, we do, that's right. I mean, we're very lucky that we have a large coastline. So we have one of the largest exclusive economic zones in the world. That's the ocean around New Zealand that we can rely on for our resources. So fishing is a big part of our economy. It was a big part of the economy for the Maori for centuries. It's a big part of the economy today. But we know that in order to be able for that to continue, we need to protect the resource. So there's a system in New Zealand that sets a quota each year for the different species of fish. And the companies are allocated quota. They can trade it among them. But really the purpose of it is to ensure that the oceans are not overfished, the sustainability. And that's a model that's worked quite well for New Zealand, and it's enabled us to continue exporting our products.
I agree with you when you say that tourism seems to be, in the blood of New Zealand. Phil Keoghan, for example, he's the host of The Amazing Race.
That's right.
And I do the Thai narration for that show for 26 seasons already. Yep. So how do we embed this love for nature? And because I think we have a lot to learn from how you manage your tourism.
Right.
Well, I guess
sustainable tourism as well.
That's right. But we're playing to what we think are our strengths. That's part of our offering. That's what makes New Zealand different. And I think you find that New Zealanders are proud of that. And if they're proud of it, they want to protect it. So there's a lot of respect for the environment, and they expect that our government and our companies also respect the environment. They expect there to be laws in place that achieve that and are enforced. I think that is something that we can share with the world.
So is there any problem caused by the foreign tourists in your country?
Well, no, not really. I mean, we don't take it for granted though, because I think we realise when we invite people to New Zealand from all different cultures, one thing that's quite important is that we also adapt to their needs as well. After all, they're our clients, if you look at it as a business. And our tourism operators have been working hard to do that. There are different preferences. Some cultures like to do a lot of shopping rather than hiking in the mountains. So we've got to cater for that too. There's the food and wine. It's not just the outdoors. We like to think we offer a full experience, but it's very important that we can cater for different tastes. So whether that's the self-driving tourists or the coach tours, whether it's tourists from our traditional sources like Europe or in Asia, then we have to try and meet their needs. So really we try and do that, and I think the industry has been very successful at it.
By the way, I'm looking at it. I think you won a double bonus ambassador. You're being in Bangkok, which is one of the most sought after city among ambassadors. Everyone that we talk to, they love being here. And the second thing is you're being a bachelor ambassador, so double bonus for you. So how are you enjoying life in Bangkok?
Well, I love being in Bangkok. It's a very exciting city. But I've been telling people that unfortunately I haven't seen enough of it because I've been working very hard.
Oh no.
Married to my job visa.
Married to your job.
But I think it's with the job, it's also a chance to be able to see
How do you
different
spend your
parts of
free
the country
time
too.
in Thailand?
Hang
or
out
in
at
Bangkok?
night, listen to some music.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I like to travel, but I haven't done as much of that as I'd like. But I have been up to the northeast. I've been to Chiang Mai. I've been down to Hua Hin. I need to see more of the islands.
Yes.
I've only been here a short time so far. But also, I like to exercise. That's one thing I do in my spare time. I have played rugby here.
Yeah, there are many clubs here. Yeah.
But really a range of things, and I like to explore Bangkok and some great. Bangkok seems to me a city that's got so much to offer, and when I have visitors here, I'm proud to be able to show them. But that also means that I've then got a reason to get out and see more things. The culture, the food, the cuisine, I think is remarkable. New Zealanders love Thai food. We have over 100 Thai restaurants in Auckland. But there's nothing like Thai food in Thailand. So that's one thing I've enjoyed doing is going out and discovering new restaurants as well.
All right. Well, wish you a pleasant stay in
Thank you
Thailand,
very much.
Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you, Fee. Koku Kra.
ขอบคุณครับ Ambassador, nice office you have here. Look at the view.
Yes, very good view.
It's a
We
wonderful
envy
view.
you.
I'm very happy to be able to look out over greenery and trees. Makes me feel very much.
Did you
like
get
I'm
to
in New
wave to
Zealand.
the U.S. ambassador while she was here?
Well, I got to know her quite well, but we only crossed over by a couple of months. Yeah, we work very closely together.
Lots of props in your office, ambassador.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Pictures and all black and the kiwi bird and.
Well, let me tell you. I mean, we talked a bit about the rugby heritage. The kiwi is it's one of our national symbols. You could say in New Zealand we have two national symbols. One of them is this. This is the fern leaf, the silver fern.
Silver fern.
It's indigenous to New Zealand. But the kiwi bird is indigenous to New Zealand as well. The thing about the kiwi is it's a bird that can't fly, but it comes out at night. It's very rare to see a kiwi, actually.
You're holding one in your hand.
That's right. I'd like to give that to one of your viewers. And we're very affectionate about the kiwi. And some of the species of kiwi have been endangered, and there's a protection program to ensure that their, the numbers continue to grow. So that's our national symbol, the kiwi. And the kiwi fruit. People think when we say kiwi, sometimes they think we're talking about the fruit.
Yes.
The fruit was named after the kiwi because it's such an iconic symbol for us. So there you go.
All right. So the origin has to be the
Because
bird.
the kiwi fruit has the fur too, like this, just the same colors.
Well, that might be the reason why.
Yes.
That's right. It became commercialised in the 60s and it's been very successful for us, the kiwi fruit.
So the origin is the bird.
That's
the
right.
kiwi
there
bird.
we go. There we go.
All right.
And we have also some symbols of our Maori culture.
Can I take it, right?
Yeah, sure. So this is a taiaha and used in battle. Maori warrior culture, and you see that with the haka, which traditionally the haka performed before the rugby matches. It's a war dance, and the symbolism is it lays down a challenge.
Ambassador, I'm always amazed by how you maintain a good relationship with the indigenous people like Maori people,
Right.
and they're like part of the country, as opposed to in the past we see like Australians and Aborigines. So what's the secret for New Zealand?
I don't know. I mean, I think that what we would say is that we've had our challenges to try and accommodate the two different cultures coming together. It hasn't always been an easy history. There was conflict in the 19th century, but eventually it was important to be able to accommodate each other
Right.
and to acknowledge historic grievances. So, that's the journey we've been on as a nation for 175 years. And I'm proud that we've made a lot of progress in that respect. And that we can be proud of each other's culture. So you find in New Zealand today a very integrated country. And like I said earlier, now the changing face of New Zealand is really multicultural. In Auckland, our largest city, 1 in 4 people are of Asian descent. So it's great for us, We're able to draw on the strengths of many different cultures now.
living in harmony
Living in harmony, yeah. So
okay
you're giving this kiwi bird away
Indeed.
and also a book, right?
That's right. So I have here this is a coffee table book with some
To get
landscapes from
inspired.
New Zealand. So if anyone feels inspired to visit our country, we would be very happy about that.
All right.
so now
The question คำถามนะครับที่จะได้หนังสือเล่มนี้และที่จะได้นกกีวี
นกกีวี
ย้ำอีก
นะคะ
ครั้งนะครับกีวีเนี่ยเป็นชื่อของนกก่อนที่จะเป็นชื่อของผลไม้นะครับเราได้ความรู้กันนะฮะในวันนี้ท่านทูตได้บอกไว้ว่าจริงๆแล้วธงของนิวซีแลนด์กับธงของออสเตรเลียเนี่ยใกล้เคียงกันมากเลยนะแต่ว่ามีจุดหนึ่งที่แตกต่างกัน ถ้าคุณผู้ชมทราบว่าแตกต่างกันอย่างไรนะครับส่งคำตอบมาได้เลยครับ
ค่ะส่งมาได้ที่ www.facebook.com/thediplomatspringnews นะคะผู้ที่ตอบคำถามถูกต้องนะคะแล้วก็โชคดีด้วยนะ เพราะว่าอาจจะมีคนตอบเข้ามาพอสมควรเลย แต่ว่าคนที่ตอบเข้ามาเร็วนะคะ เดี๋ยวเราก็จะมีของที่ระลึกให้จากสถานเอกอัครราชทูตนิวซีแลนด์ประจำประเทศไทยค่ะ
ครับเพราะนั้นคือทั้งหมดของ The Diplomat ทาง Spring News ในวันนี้นะครับท่านทูตรูเบนคุณมิกกี้ผมวารินลาไปก่อนนะครับสวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ